Welcome to Feel Like You Belong. We are on site today at the Grand Rapids Ballet Company and talking about international dancing and a marvelous new program coming up this winter called Move Media, Parts 1 and 2. The theme this year is on diversity, and we're here talking with the creative director, Michael Auer. Michael, thank you for joining us on Feel Like You Belong.
Oh, delighted to be here.
So, going back to Vienna, Austria, you were a young boy there and you were interested in dance. How did that come about?
Well, I didn't know I was interested in dance. My parents divorced when I was 2, and I was a somewhat hyperactive child and always got into trouble. And at around 10, my mom decided, you know, my poor grandparents who were babysitting me most of the time, they needed a little relief, and then she was looking into, you know, what kind of activities she would get me into.
For this fidgety boy.
For this troublemaker, right. And, you know, she explored like gymnastics, and they had practices for 45 minutes on Mondays and Wednesdays and Fridays, and the ballet, it was for an hour and a half every day of the week. So
more coverage for the grandparents.
Absolutely, yeah. So that's how I ended up in ballet at age 10 at the Vienna State Opera Ballet School, and sort of kept this up for a long time.
So at what point did you discover, hey, I'm good at this and it feels good?
Probably at around 14 or 15, I received some positive attention that made you feel like you were progressing, you're heading into the right direction.
We all like affirmation.
We do like that. In ballet, you know, you don't get it very often. You get told no a lot.
I've heard.
It's a yes. But sometimes people ask me, so didn't you like it? And I'm like, not really. I mean, it's just something that I ended up doing. And I think the greatest thing for me personally, having found ballet, was an activity that was my own. I was, like I said, a troublemaker in school, and I had a hard time with the teachers, and I didn't really make any friends. In Austria, we didn't do, even though both of my parents were in athletics. My father was a coach for the national team in Austria. We didn't really do that much, so ballet was my own outlet, my activity, and I think if I wouldn't have found that, I don't know what I would have done probably.
Sure. So a conundrum about the babysitting schedule created indirectly a career for you.
It did. And I think, you know, what's so important, I remember going to school, what was so important that, you know, we went to concerts at the Musikvereinssaal. As kids, we had much greater exposure to culture. Mm-hmm. My parents always listened to the music, and you know, music came on, we all started dancing around. It's a much more, culture's a much more everyday part of the life.
In Europe.
In Europe.
And I think part of that is because there's a lot more state sponsorship for the arts in Europe.
Was, and even that is changing.
Okay.
You know?
Okay. Because for a lot of people, the performance arts, the fine arts, are seen by some Americans as a little too hoity-toity. And so but if you say, let's go to the ballet, let's go to the opera, let's go to the symphony in Europe, people say sure, because they grow up with it.
It's part of the culture, it's part of their history, if
Yeah.
you will. But I think we've tried to make dance much more accessible. I think grand opera in the United States became its own thing a little bit, and I think it was not accessible, and I think it changed in the 30s or something like that. You know, it was always sung in Italian, and you know, it was in a hall performed at the Met for 5,000 people, and it became inaccessible for a lot of Americans, I think.
Sure. And anytime you take an art form and have to introduce it, there are some concessions or adaptations that you're going to need to make. I want to fast forward because you said your mom had remarried and you ended up moving to Memphis, Tennessee.
Correct.
And so did you continue dance there?
I did. And I also got more into athletics. And so I was torn between, football practice and
American football or world
American
football? Okay.
And my ballet teachers were like, no, you got to come to rehearsal, and all the track and field guys were going, no, we got practice tomorrow. So it was interesting, but I really enjoyed that.
And then you got a scholarship in New York.
I received a Ford Foundation scholarship to go study at School of American Ballet. I finished my high school at Professional Children's School right across Fordham University.
What was that like for a kid out of, who did some of his growing up in Tennessee to move to New York City?
Well, that felt more like home.
Okay.
It was an interesting lifestyle in Memphis. Great barbecue, great music, But I think I was more comfortable in a bigger city.
Sure.
So.
And then you went on to dance professionally. You've danced both in Europe and danced professionally in the United States. How many years did that span?
Well, after School of American Ballet, I went back to Memphis and I installed burglar alarms for a year. I completely left the profession because there was something that I don't know why.
Burned
exactly.
out, or?
I don't want to say burned out at 19, but yeah, I think it was a little bit disillusioned. I think there was no guidance. So this is your next career step. You need to go audition. You need to do this. You need to say hello to a ballet man. There was just, I didn't really know what to do, I think.
Okay. And so just checking yourself, okay, am I ready to make this next leap? No,
Right.
No pun intended.
So I installed burglar alarms. Doesn't everyone?
You have all these life skills you've accumulated.
Well, a little bit. But a year into this, I received a phone call from a friend of mine and said, our artistic director at North Carolina Dance Theater is looking for a dancer. And I said, I haven't taken class in weeks or months. And she was like, it's fine. You just come in. So I re-entered the ballet world and didn't leave for a long time.
What did you love about professional dancing?
The adrenaline on stage during the performances. I think that's probably, after having retired, I think that's the one thing that I really miss. It's not the daily grind. It's not, it's hard on the body. It's hard on the mind. But you go out on stage and you know your entrance is coming and you know there's 3,000 people sitting out there. It's a rush.
Oh, sure,
Yeah.
sure. And you've done all this preparation, all this training, all
Right.
this choreographing and thinking, and I understand. Yeah. So you danced professionally, and then you had a major career shift. You
did.
became a software engineer.
I did.
That's not the logical choice for every retired
Well,
ballet dancer.
It's not that far off. I mean, it's crazy hours. It's a very creative process. There's patterns, but there's no strict rules, right? And on either of the two professions. I had always had an interest in science and mechanics and all of that. I think I've truly embarked on learning how to program because our artistic director co-artistic director at Pacific Northwest Ballet in Seattle, we were doing a new production of Nutcracker, and Ken Stoll, the co-director, and Maurice Sendak, the children's book illustrator, collaborated on a Nutcracker production, a new Nutcracker production. And when we at the time did 40 some odd performances. When we went on tour to Portland and Vancouver, it ended up being maybe 52, 54 performances, plus 3 dress rehearsals, plus whatever. And that was a significant amount of human resources tracking. I mean, who does what performance? And, Francia had these huge notepads that she glued together, and it had all the parts. And it still turned out that there were the 2 parts were done by one performer, and we didn't know there was a scramble going on. Somebody needs to jump in. So I took, this was done in Turbo Pascal, I wrote this. I wrote my own database management ISAM system, and basically taught myself how to program.
Well, you had a real practical problem in the art world,
Correct.
and you needed to create a system to solve that.
She said, "Oh, it can't be done by the computer," and I think what we figured out, of course, the computer is not going to. I mean, artificial intelligence, even at this point in time, probably would have a hard time with casting decisions. But what it allowed is, created a system whereby you couldn't double cast someone.
It's organized data management.
It would print out the sign-in sheets. It would print out the casting inserts. It would do all the redundant stuff that took a lot of time and made it error-proof, basically.
So what made you leave that career and go back into performance arts?
I was in Switzerland working at the time when Patricia called me and said, should I take the job here? Or maybe she said, I am taking the job here. And I said, okay, great. So she got me a plane ticket. And
for clarification, who is Patricia?
Patricia Barker is the artistic director of Grand Rapids Ballet. And she's my superstar wife. And as I said before, I'm just the celebrity husband. But so she got me a ticket. I came to Grand Rapids, and it was great. I'm going, wow, this hustle and bustle. Little did I know it was Art Prize weekend, so it was always like that. And I was here for 2-3 weeks, and said, so when am I going home? She got me a one-way ticket. I'm still here. So no, it's been fantastic. It's really, I think, having been away for 20 some odd years has really rekindled my interest in the art form. And
talk about how you combined your two past careers into your current job.
At the Grand Rapids Ballet, because we're a small organization, we really didn't have anyone that had experience in the IT world, so I inherited that part. And I'm not a graphic designer by any means, but I had worked with guys and used Photoshop myself and Adobe Premiere and all of that. So those kind of skills just added up, and then we said, well, we need a little bit of projection for a show. So I said, okay, sure, let's do that. And it sort of finished up with last year's production of Alice in Wonderland, where we used three computers for one for sound, 2 for projections. We had 7 projectors all strung together. So I mean, it's turning into a major kind of a...
Well, and you've really elevated the art of stagecraft with this.
Well, it's something that we really wanted to do, especially for Move Media, where we kind of wanted to blend art with technology and digital media. So it kind of took a normal progression. We started out just, a still image in a projector, and people were like, ooh, this is so cool. And we said, well, we can do more.
Come back next year.
Correct, exactly.
Absolutely. Yeah. And as I had hinted in the introduction, Move Media is the one time during the year that you don't do ballet, you do contemporary dance, and it's always organized around a theme. Talk about the inspiration for this year's particular program, because the theme is diversity.
The theme is diversity, and we felt that the time was right to address the issue of diversity. And diversity, to me, means not just racial, but it means gender, it means income, it means whatever. I wanted to open it up. Patricia and talk about this all the time, and Move Media primarily became my vehicle a little bit, finding the choreographers, finding the topics. But I felt that what we wanted to do is we wanted to provide a platform for choreographers to express their view of what diversity means to them. It wasn't up to us to say, well, we want this on LGBTQ rights or ethnicity. We wanted to stay out of that. We're kind of curating the pieces, but we're not choosing the topic.
So the choreographers come to you and say, hey, I've got this theme I'd like to do. Can we work together?
Correct. We went, Olivier Wiebes has done a number of pieces for us, and he doesn't shy away from hard topics. And so he was the first one we spoke to and said, Olivier, what are you thinking? And he said, bullying. I mean, just right off the, he's always wanted to address that.
And I'm guessing not more than just a few of your company members have experienced that in their growing up, because kids in the arts especially
a lot of people
get picked on.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, yeah, we do. I mean, well, it's funny because, you're a guy and you're in the United States and you're taking ballet, right? It's,
that's not the...
People uncomfortable with that for whatever reason. I don't know why, but...
Sure. Stereotypes and
that's
how a guy is supposed to be.
Yeah.
Sure. So what are you hoping audiences come away with?
A couple of things. My vision was to reintroduce the notion to choreographers, to artists, that dance isn't just about movement studies. By the time we have an audience in the theater, they leave. I want them to walk away with something, a thought, an emotion, a topic. And I want to have choreographers rethink what it is that they're creating. I know we are utilizing movement, but there's an end game to that. And that is that I want the audience to be touched somehow. And whether that's a social commentary, whether it's a political statement, whether it's an emotional something, I'm okay with that. I'm not saying it has to be something specific.
People can take away what they will.
Yeah, but I really want to make sure that choreographers understand that you want to distill that back down to what that means.
Sure. And you're also ensuring that various audiences get touched, because in some of the sponsorships that you're looking for, you're looking to connect people who have particular interests in various areas like bullying and...
Correct. And that's the second point, that my vision was to connect stakeholder organizations in the community to the topics, chosen topics by the choreographers. Hopefully what we're going to be able to produce is, over a period of weeks, we would like to have coordinate with stakeholder organizations activities around those topics.
Sure.
I want to engage the community to become more aware. It's not just audiences come, sit here for 2 hours and then go home. I want it to be more immersive. I want it to be more in the public, in the press, and raise awareness.
Awesome. Well, I know our crew is looking forward to seeing this this winter performance, and so I want to wish you all the best of luck. Now, so we're finishing because you are soon to hop on a plane and be in another hemisphere.
For a few weeks.
But Patricia is taking a job down under.
Yes, eventually we will be moving to New Zealand, Wellington,
Okay.
New Zealand, for the Royal New Zealand Ballet.
Exactly, and on this theme, the theme of our show is belonging. Mm-hmm. You've lived in lots of places. You've lived now in Grand Rapids, Michigan for 7 years. What's your understanding of belonging?
It's what you make of it. There's issues in every city that you live in, and there's fabulous opportunities to explore, and there's always positives as well. It depends on what you want to look for. The biggest problem that I have, having been here in Grand Rapids, we didn't do enough. We didn't get out enough. No, I'm serious.
Too busy working?
Yeah, a little bit of that, and then you come home and you have a weekend and you just want to do laundry. You don't, So that's my biggest
also
regret.
Needs to be done.
We didn't go to the UP. We didn't, we went to Petoskey once or something. We went to the dunes once, and we just didn't do enough of that.
Yeah. Well, maybe after you've left here, when you do come back on a vacation, we'll tour you around the state and show you a little bit of what we know about Michigan. I want to thank you so much for sharing your time with us today, and again, continued success with what you're doing here in Grand Rapids before the next big thing.
Well, thank you so much.
You're welcome. For people watching on TV, stay tuned. We'll be back in just a moment with some tips on American English, American culture, and a bit of humor. For people watching on the internet, I hope you'll follow up this experience by watching other episodes where we interview the amazing immigrants who work to make America a better place.